Hi, my name's Chris Carter, instructor here at Point Blank. If you want to learn more about sound design, head over to our website at pointblanklondon.com. In this video, we're going to focus on the fact that Massive is a wavetable synth and understand exactly what that means. When we first load the instrument up, this is what we have in all three of our oscillators, 1 to 3, something here that says square saw. But we also see that if we click just to the right of where it says square saw, we have a whole lot of different options here, and each of these names is a wavetable. Let's just have a closer look at this default wavetable square saw, and we can do that by looking at the frequency spectrum and the wave shape down here. You'll notice that this pot here is described as WT position. That stands for wavetable position. So with this first wavetable loaded, if I was to trigger a key and rotate this dial all the way to the left, you'll see the wave shape here as not actually a perfect square, but fairly square in its basic characteristic. And if we have a look at the harmonics that are produced, this is what we would typically expect to see from a square wave, which is all of the odd harmonics and none of the even harmonics. If I rotate this dial to the right, and actually let's just go to envelope 4 and increase our decay level so that we have a gate shape. If I go back and rotate my dial to the right, and if you keep your eye on the harmonics in the wave shape as I do this, you'll see two things happen. One is the wave shape changes, and as a result of that, the harmonic content changes. Let's just change that back to square. So this is the essence of wavetable synthesis. What we have, we could think of it as a kind of a list. In this case, our wavetable or list only contains two waveforms, a square wave and a saw wave, and what we're doing is crossfading, or perhaps we could say morphing, between these two shapes using this dial. And obviously this can be modulated using envelopes or using LFOs, as we've seen in the previous video. So if I wanted to gradually change this shape from a square to a saw and back again, I could do that by selecting envelope 1, dropping it in the box, and let's just give it the full range. And if we go to envelope 1, in this case we would like a fairly slow attack, so the dial will rotate to the right, and we want it to come all the way back to the left, so that would mean bringing the level all the way down, give it a slightly longer shape. And as I trigger a key now, we will see square to saw and back to square. And let's make the attack time a little bit longer, so we've got it. So there we are, to a saw wave and back again. And this is about the most simple wavetable that we will find inside this instrument, although we do have a few others which only contain two waves. For instance, if I click here, you'll see that we have sine to square, and if I rotate this myself instead of via the modulation, you'll see there's my sine wave, a single frequency with no harmonics, and there's the sine shape, and as I rotate to the right, there's the square. So as well as these very simple basic wavetables, we also have a whole range of stuff. Some of these wavetables contain dozens of different waveforms, and this is really the main essence of how this particular instrument makes quite a lot of its signature sounds. For instance, if I was to scroll down to the bottom of this third column here and select something that says carbon, carbon is a wavetable that contains lots of different waveforms. And what I can do now is very gradually rotate this wavetable position dial. In fact, let's get rid of that modulation so that we're not confused by it. And as I do that, you'll see the wave shape change several times, and as the wave shape changes, so will the harmonic content. So we've got something which is very far removed from those basic analog shapes that we've seen previously. So I just changed the dial a tiny bit there, and already we're in completely different kind of sound. In fact, let's zoom in a little bit on the waveform here so that we can get a closer look at what's actually happening. And maybe let's zoom out a little bit more. So we're just over a quarter of the way around now, and we've heard several different wave shapes, and some of these are quite unusual, and many of them contain very altered harmonic content from those basic square and saw shapes that we saw initially. So something like that, you can see how really it's mostly just this high mid-range with a little bit of lower stuff in there. Okay, so tons of really good stuff inside this wavetable, this particular one, carbon. And really, to understand or to become familiar with all of these different wavetables and what they're capable of, that's really a question of practice and time. There's all kinds of stuff there, and the only way to really find out what is there is by going through them and finding what you're looking for. We're going to stick with carbon. Let's say that in this particular instance, because we have a wavetable which has so many different waveforms in it, we probably want to be fairly careful with our modulation to only modify quite a small range of this parameter here. So for instance, let's reassign our envelope by dragging over here. And let's unbypass that. If I was to use the full range of this parameter, I'm really going to have a bit of a garbled mess. There's so many changes going on inside the sound, it's possibly quite difficult for me to find a use for it. So what I'll typically do is find just a small range of the wavetable that I like, and in this case, because we have so many wave shapes, it might only be a very small portion of it. And we come up with some quite interesting sounds there, and all we're doing is modulating through this small range of the wavetable using this envelope shape, and really it's a question of the decay time, how quickly we scroll up and back again through that small portion. And then obviously the other main factor will be here where we start from, and therefore what portion of the wavetable we use. So using this small range, wherever I set this dial, I'm going to come up with some quite different types of sounds. And if I just move that around a little. And there we go. So what we're doing now is wavetable synthesis using a modulator to modify or morph the wave shape over time. And obviously this is very early stages of putting a sound together because it's a single oscillator with a single mod source. What would happen if we started to add in further oscillators? What we could do is choose other wavetables and other modulation sources and stack these sounds together to come up with some really quite interesting and unusual textures. But that's the basic process of assigning modulation in Massive to achieve wavetable synthesis.